Good morning, good morning. Predicted Trades family. Hopefully you guys are well rested and ready to slay today. Let me just drop a little message to let everybody know in our server that we are live. There you go. We are live, baby. Now everybody knows. But thank you guys for tuning in. And let's start breaking stuff down. As always, first we're gonna check out what's on the schedule for today. And so, today we have NFP, non-farm payroll. We got unemployment, hourly earnings, PMI, yada yada. And little old Brainerd speaks today at 10:30, so probably nothing out of that. And we'll see how these numbers go, but overall not really expecting any shockers here that will drive the market. And as always, in our server, go check out every morning your stock news, read through anything new that might have popped up overnight, but not going to waste our time doing it here. Excuse me. So, let's dig on into ES. Yesterday, we were climbing up our trend line. We dipped through it just long enough to tap the previous day's low and take right back off through the first trend line that we got through, came back and tested and just kept on trucking to the second trend line where we chilled for a second and then just kept on trucking. Yesterday I talked about trying to understand when it's time to short, and you know, at each point where we started to pull back, there were a lot of folks in the room saying, is it time to short, is it time to short? It's very important when we break through trend lines. You know, this trend line pretty much kept us in a down trend, and just breaking it out of it just to go even harder back down below it. So getting through that was definitely the first sign that we want to keep trucking higher. And then as we, you know, slap some key levels, pull back, but then blast right through them and then take out the next trend line, everything yesterday was screaming to me that they're not shorting anything. In fact, they are buying everything. One of the watch list columns that I provide in my tool belt is the percent buying on the day. And as you can see, everything yesterday was getting bought up in the market. Everything was green. So I tried to advise, at least for my folks, don't short anything. Use every pullback to grab a call and keep riding the wave up. which rallied into close and arrived at our key zone here, right before we get to 4,200. We resisted that zone overnight, and now we've faded back right to our trend line and right to our key zone. So we should be prepared today to go long off of this trend line, off of this zone. And should we start to dive through this trend line and dive through this zone, then we can start talking about shorting, because we could run the potential of engulfing, right? And if we give out this zone, notice I say give out, not just slip and then pop back up. To give out means to get down, come up, reject, keep going. Then it's time to short because it is going to 41.01. But overall today, we do need to recognize this epic run up, this tiny ranged pullback, and now we're ready to take out that high. We're starting from a better starting point, right? I mean, we started the week here, right at this zone. And each day, you know, we might have opened a little bit higher, but then we ran into our resistance and right back down. And now we have a pretty good springboard, and we took out that 41.65 yesterday. So I know everyone looks at a gap down and they think, oh, here we go, time to short again. But at the very least, let's just recognize that sometimes a gap down is just for them to load right back up to go take out key resistance above. So let me load up our usual tools. Squeeze wise, we are out of lower time frame squeezes. 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, they all fired, right? We did get a little 30-minute overnight that we dumped out of back to our trend line. We will get that economic data here in just about 20 minutes or so. So we'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised to see us push off this zone and actually open back higher. But we'll see what we get. Upside thesis, hold this trend line, hold this zone. We can keep on trucking with some key levels above our key zone that we resisted overnight, and the top of a 4-hour squeeze that has settled around 4,200. It is still low compression, hasn't got any red in it yet, so it can be easier to open up as we start to push into it. Now up above that, we do have a daily squeeze that's getting tighter around us. Quit it. And we have the daily 50 up at 42.45. Let's see, technically we closed up near about 75, 76, even pushed a little more. On a 100-point ATR, we can get to and through this, technically, if it is a strong, strong day, which would mean we need to see maybe a little more volume than we have lately. I know a lot of folks have said, we're going higher on low volume, it's just going to drop out at any moment. Well, it's not dropping out. And it's bouncing at key moving averages, like it should, to head higher. Yesterday we got that 21 tap. And after pushing higher, the 8 was pulled above the 21. So we've got our crossover. And looking more bullish, right? As far as EMAs go. So, upside, hold this zone, trend line, we can start to take out these levels. And if we want to have a full ATR day, it would be mission daily 50. Downside, thesis, if we give out trend line and zone, we will be returning to this zone now made by the daily 21, daily 8, and a key level. Don't see a ton more downside below that, but you know, if we if we slip through zone, we would be revisiting the lows from the last 2 days, and then probably 40.56. But I kind of doubt that. Big catalyst today. It's the last day before Amazon splits. Their split happens on Monday. I believe that means whatever's the last print today, the split will happen, and when we all wake up Monday, these charts for Amazon will be, what is it, 20 to 1? Yep. And this is, I've been talking about this for weeks. This is what it's been looking like leading into the split. So, I would not be shocked for us to just keep trucking. Our third daily Keltner is right up with that daily 50. I think someone asked yesterday, is Amazon overbought yet? When we get up to the third daily Keltner, that's definitely overbought and where things usually turn around. So we can keep on trucking. Let's see what Amazon gives us today. NQ. And don't worry, I'll go back to Amazon. I was just talking about how it's a big catalyst. NQ was, yesterday was kind of leading the downside pre-market, and then it led the upside. Today, kind of doing the same again. And I don't have them drawn, but you can draw some trend lines out to say, right up in here, there you go. If you connect this bad boy, right at about there, see? Pretty easy to find that there is a trend line that we are approaching that carried us, and even though we slipped, we got right back above it and pushed off of it. You can even see this wick tapping it. So, if NQ can hold up this trend line, hold it around this 12,700, can just keep on trucking right back through the overnight high to our key level above and the first Keltner. Make a nice little zone there as a magnet. We do have the 4-hour squeeze and the daily squeeze up above. And the daily 50 is way on up there at 13,300. Technically, it could get there today with where it closed and an ATR. So, downside target, if we give out trend line, most likely going back to the 21 and the 8, which are now crossing over each other. So, magnet below, magnets above. Let's see if buying continues in tech today. Ruddy is inching its little, took us right up to 1900. 1900 very key. And today it will be the closest open to that. So, would not be surprised to see the Ruddy get up above 1900 and arrive at its daily 50, as well as this daily squeeze top. Can be a great indication for further upside today, especially since it's kind of starting closest compared to the other indexes. And if we draw our little trend line, we'll be nearing that as well. So as long as we hold upside, daily 50, and north of 1900. If we reject 1900 and cannot get to the daily 50, or hit it and reject and lose 1900, we could come back to trend line and go to test the daily 21 and daily 8. Nice thing is, for everything today, it's pretty easy. We have upside targets, we have downside targets, we have trend lines, and now if you draw trend lines from these lows and from overnight, we have a wedge. So, wait for it to break and head higher or lower. YM. YM also very close to its daily 50, which is now stepped down to that recent high. A lot of times things will line up so nicely that it's not a coincidence. So we have not tapped the daily 50 yet, and YM is close. As long as it can hold trend line from the lows or from the lows of the last week or so, we can truck on up and test the daily 50 today at the top of this 4-hour and daily squeeze. And we also have a Keltner right up above that we did not quite get to test yet. So, some good magnets above, some good magnets below. Watch your trend lines, right? Hopefully this all makes sense. I'm just going to randomly grab some things, right? And let's make it a little less extreme. You know, something like that. Draw your trend lines from overnight, coming into a nice wedge on everything. Apple. Like we talked about yesterday, when squeezes are all stacked up and getting red and orange, it's hard to push through them in a given day. We can push into them, and then usually the gap will open them up a little bit, right? Gap up would have been nice because it probably would have obliterated this one, but since we gapped down, it did pull it in a little to be red. But ultimately, we are dealing with a 4-hour and 2-hour and a daily squeeze. So 2-hour and 4-hour are stacked as long as we can hold 147.5. And, you know, we can slip down to about 146.5, maybe, and then catch a bounce. But ultimately, looking for it to hold 147.5. That's basically been the low every day, just about. You know, getting down as low as 147-ish, 146.80. So looking for it to hold up there. If it's slipping below that, it's going to be dragging the market, and the market's going to be slipping. But as long as we can hold 147.5, we can push right back up through yesterday and the previous day's high and this trend line to get to test 152. And the overall target is getting to 155 in our zone above where the first Keltner is. So, you know, the last 2 days, it's just been bouncing around the 21 and the 8. And they are going to be right on these two levels today. So, let's see if we can hold and head higher. If we lose this level and the daily 8, it's going to be a big sign for tech that it's going to roll over. You know, Apple slipping 4 points, that does move the market. So, AMD. Yesterday, chips got a ton of love. AMD opened near these squeeze bottoms right at its daily 8 and just took off. Right through resistance for the week and trend line from the highs. Right through our squeezes, firing them to the upside into our higher time frame squeezes. So now we're arriving at a 1-day, 2-day squeeze top, but the 1-day is opening up from red, from mid compression to low compression. So we can keep on trucking up through yesterday's high and start firing these daily squeezes to the upside on AMD. Should we give out kind of this 106, which is where we had our last bounce before running into close, right? Should we give out this 106, 105 and a half, let's call it? She might be coming back to that 104 that was resistance all week. Amazon. Just real quick, let me look over at the YouTube chat because I do see some questions. It should be the same link. I just, instead of grabbing the link that was in chat, I just went and hit share again, and sometimes it generates a different URL, but same study, no changes to it. And Bart said, I remember on Monday when Professor said Amazon could get to 2,600 this week. Yep. Now it's not going to, it's be a light sweat for that, to get there. Shit, it could get there in the first 2 candles if it wants. Amazon. The star of the week. And the star of the last couple of weeks. While most of the names that we looked at already kind of had boring Mondays and Tuesdays, Amazon's been pushing, a little profit taking and pushing, a little profit taking and pushing. With the gap down, she might not need much profit taking, and she got through 2,500 and kept trucking, and then the market gap down is settling her right at 2,500. So let us see if she wants to come down and tag the last point where she bounced. And we have, what is this, our 30-minute trail, creating a nice zone of support. So if this zone of support holds, to the moon, Alice. If this zone gives out, she could slip a little, but like I said, split coming. Gap zone above at 2,600 and the daily 50 at 2,700. If you've never seen Amazon have a 200-point day, you might be in luck today. Cat. Didn't do much except grind against the top of the squeeze, opening it up some more. And as everything's firing or getting to low compression, Cat can actually push pretty decently. It looks like this daily squeeze on Cat. It's technically still intact, even though it's starting to disappear. So we could be close to firing that to the upside as well on Cat. Bid or mission to get back to 227, which it can do today if it really wanted. Facebook. Sometimes those sell-offs on a news event, they're just trying to trap people short, and so big money can buy a dip for the next move. And I talked about it like when that COO quitting news came out. We don't know. We're not investors. We don't know how they interpret that. We see it drop, but then we see a bounce right off a key level. If they really wanted to sell Facebook off and really hated that news, we wouldn't have seen the bounce. We would have seen it sell off into close, right? And then a gap down or something. Instead, they picked it right back up. It opens pretty much right where they stopped picking it up, and they just kept going. So, Facebook pretty much kind of getting into that bullhorn pattern. But let's see if it can hold 195, which has been a big key level of resistance. So now that we are above it, want to see that be support, would like to see us hold, and head back up through yesterday's high and back above 200. Should this 195 give out, we'll be coming back to these daily moving averages just a couple bucks down. And if those give out, well, you know where we're going. But overall, I think the market's going to keep trucking today. And if it doesn't, I'll be ready to move into a put and start shorting. Google, also strong, also has a split coming, although it's not till mid-July, so we got time. So they can push it up, then take profit back to the means, and then push it up again, because they've got weeks. But overall, Google pretty much pushed through all of its squeezes. There is a daily that is up at 24.25, and we have the daily 50 at 24.60. From where we closed on Google, we can see this daily squeeze top today. But we have to keep an eye out for resistance at this daily Keltner. This little trend line around 23.80. If we get through that, we are going to truck to 24 and 24.20. GS. Rejected this squeeze, daily squeeze top the other day and fell hard with the market right to the daily 21 for a bounce. Yesterday she was kind of holding us back, and at least holding YM back. Banks looked weak, but then they found their foot basically around this daily 50 and daily 8. Did not even need the daily 21. So, pushed above the moving averages. Came back, tagged the 21, tagged the 8 and the 50, and pushing. All signs point that this is ready to keep on trucking. Let's see, gonna open around 22. Yeah, so might take a little dip to the 8 again, or might just take right off to fill the gap and get back to the highs around 330. JPM. Kind of the same thing. Up above all moving averages, it tagged the daily 8 yesterday. It looks like it's ready to just keep going. If it can hold 129, 130, we'll get back to the highs and maybe further to 135, 136. Microsoft. There was that Microsoft news. Crap, I forget what it was now. Was someone leaving the company or something? I can't remember. Oh no, they updated their guidance. That's right, they updated their guidance. It wasn't as favorable as before. So we got that dump pre-market. But they just took it right to daily moving averages and then picked it right back up. So might not be the worst news. Sometimes all they need is a reason to take profit and pick it up again. But Microsoft in a tight squeeze today. Let's see if it can hold 270, 268, catch a bounce there, and head on back up through yesterday's high in a bid to get back to this week's high at 277 in these squeeze tops. Should 270, 268 give out, we are likely going to, just like yesterday, slip through the 21 and hit the 15. We could do that again today. Netflix. Finally above the 21. Fired all of its squeezes to the upside and finally above 200. I do remember at least saying yesterday, if she can stay north of this squeeze bottom, she can take 200 out and make a decent trade. So hopefully some folks hit it. Probably Mr. Chris over there. But let's see if she can hold 200 today. Keep on trucking through yesterday's high, pre-market high, on a bid to get back to 210. If she gives out 200, we might see a little slip. But we have the daily 21 right there at 200. What was resistance should now become support, so we can keep moving. NVIDIA, same thing. Remember talking about NVIDIA yesterday, saying she can get to 200 if she wants. Those 200s can work out. And I know some folks in our room that picked up those 200 calls at about 20 cents, 15 cents, and I think they got to like a $1.50, almost maybe $2. I didn't check in on it at the end of the day, but monster trade for some of our folks in the room, picking this up off of holding that daily 21, daily 8, and the 200s were at our beast zone for an epic trade, which I believe for some of those folks was pretty much a 10x. Yeah. So let's see if NVIDIA, now that it's starting from a much higher open than every other day this week, in fact, it's starting above all the highs. So let's see if it wants to take a little dip just to test all those highs, and then keep trucking through yesterday's high, overnight high, and truly take out that 200 level. QQQ. 311 is very key. It was resistance all week. We got through. Overnight we've slipped a little. Economic data is coming out now, and now we're seeing a bounce in things. Not surprising. So let's see if we can get above this 311 before open. If so, might see a little dip to it, and then a takeoff to our zone above. Very key zone. 318, very key on the Qs. I believe Richie posted some prep in our team prep channel last night talking about some key levels to watch on Q, so definitely go check that out if you haven't yet. Let's see. If we stay under 311 and reject, or can't hold it and get going, we'll slip to retest 310, kind of that pre-market low. Should that give out daily 21 down below? It will be stepping up slightly, so probably be around like 307, 308. Roku. Roku. At the daily means, got a nice push yesterday with everything, as they were buying everything. Now it's above the daily means, so let's see if that can be support for Roku. You know, basically this 93, 94. If she can hold that, truck through yesterday's high, she could get above 100 today. If she gives out 93, 94, and ultimately they'll be stepping up too. So if she gives out 93, 94, back to yesterday's low at 90. Shop till you drop. Like I said, they bought everything yesterday. Shop off of the squeeze bottom, breaking through those moving averages. You know, just understanding signs of when to go long. Shop was trying to hold at those moving averages pre-market. She drops near squeeze bottom. She tags squeeze bottom, and once she breaks above moving averages, that's your signal. Go along. Boom, boom, boom. 400. She made it and tapped it yesterday, and even got above it a little bit. So now, starting from a much higher open than the entire week, starting pretty much at the week's high before yesterday, that is. So let's see if pre-market low can hold on Shop. She can keep on trucking. 420, 430. I don't skip right over Snow. I don't care about it anymore. SPX. one thing we talked about this week was this gap from last Thursday into Friday where we just took off. That gap has been sitting and waiting. Wednesday, it held. And yesterday, it held. Very key. It held for the first hour. These are 30-minute candles, so for an hour, it held the gap level. And on ES, it held the daily 21. And I know a few folks remember us saying that I mentioned that in the first hour. We have spent an hour not going lower. It's a good sign we're going to go higher. So it can be that simple. Gap held, taken off. Now we're going to be having a little gap down, depending on how the rest of pre-market goes. So let's see if we can, I'd say, stay north of that 41.28 high from Wednesday afternoon. Get trucking and take out yesterday's high. 4,200 is a mission above. Should we lose 41.28, probably going back to test 4,100. And these moving averages that are now above this gap. But I always recommend to mark gaps. SPX loves to go back and fill gaps. Here was one here. And we opened and filled it. And then we went back to test it again and took off, right? So mark gaps on SPX. They can be very simple plays. There was a gap back here. And when we opened lower, we went and filled that gap. So there's always gaps around. This gap got filled immediately, so we don't worry about it. But yeah, always mark your gaps on SPX. Oh, SPY. Key levels, folks. They are very, very helpful. SPY held the 21. You can see these 30-minute candles all wicked a little below, but closed their candles above the 21. Very key, very bullish. Took off through our zones, key levels, arriving at our upside target zone, calming down and coming back. 414, very, very key. If we can stay above 414 at open, depending on where we open, or get above 414 and use it as support, we're going right on back to 418. If we keep losing 414 and its resistance, we could slip back and engulf that huge run. I mean, you can see these were very strong candles, and then we settle for a little bit, and then pop and settle, and then big push. So giving out this level where this strong push closed and then lost steam a little bit, right? Just went sideways. Should we give out that level and it continue to be resistance, we can go back down. Square. It hasn't been a ton of interest for me in this week. Was a good short, was a good long. Now it'll be kind of trapped in that range, if you want my opinion. But if they want to buy it and rotate into it and the market's strong today, let's see if it can hold this 85, get through yesterday's high, and a mission to get through the week's high and get north of 90, right? If it can't take out yesterday's high and it keeps rejecting the 21, it could give out this 85 and head on back, 81, 82. Tesla. Last week on Tesla, we nailed going long from 650 to 718 and then 744 in a mission to get back to the daily 21. This week, we nailed again on Thursday the thesis. We've had a run up. We made it to the 21, came back slowly to the 8 as it caught up. Thesis yesterday, as long as we can hold the 8, hold the squeeze bottom, so that means tapping and getting above, it's a long. In fact, I think if I load one of my other charts, yep, we tagged my key 725. In fact, the thesis yesterday was 718 is key. Now the daily 15 is caught up to it. If 718, 725 can hold, she'll go to 780. And that's what happened. Now she's gapping back pretty dramatically. I know Elon has been, running his mouth this morning on the Twitterverse, but again, as long as 725, 718 can hold, we can move higher, back to 780. 725, 718 gives out. We're probably going to 691, and if extreme, 687. Last but not least, our good pal VIX. Finally made it to VIX under 25. If you go back, weeks, we have been bouncing at 25 every time at VIX and heading back north of 30. And even, excuse me, even last week, we ended near 25 and a half, and we gapped back almost to 30. But 28 held us back, then 27 held us back. And yesterday, we officially got to that 24 and a half, where we caught a little bounce, right? Now we got the gap up. So watch this trend line from where we bottomed on VIX. Should that trend line give out, and we can go on a mission to take out key level and yesterday's low, VIX can continue down to 23.3 and this daily squeeze bottom. Oh, and the daily 200, which sits at 22.8. So 23 with a little bit of change around it. Very big targets below if VIX can give out trend line and take out those lows. If VIX continues to bounce at trend line and stay north of 25, it can start pushing back up to these means to 27, 28, where the top of the squeeze is. So I'm guessing this is a 2 hour, 4 hour. Use this 4 hour squeeze as gauge. If we can give out trend line, take out lows, we can fire 4 hour down to get down to 23. If we hold this 4 hour, hold trend line, daily Keltner, and stay above 25, we're going back up, market going down. And then, real quick, before we close this out, let's talk about the tool and how to load it, because I know we've had questions around that. So let's just start fresh. Let's see what we got. Let me copy this. Actually, maybe it's still, let me go to, so what you want to do is copy the link that we provided. You can get it in the Discord server, or we did just share it on our come on. We did just share it on this YouTube, on our Twitter, on all of it. But every day for our members, I will be dropping the daily tool. I will also be pinning that message so that every morning you drop in, and at the top of the pinned messages is today's tool. And I unpin the previous day's tools. Also, right under that is this Beast 3 document, and even though this is Beast 4, the grid that gets plotted is very similar. So definitely read this Beast 3 PDF as it talks about what is burger top, burger bottom, yada yada. Please go check that out. But to import this tool, you copy the hyperlink that is shared daily in live trading and pinned at the top. You come in and paste that hyperlink. You hit preview. It should say the same thing as what I shared in the room, Beast Zone 4 with today's date. I'm not going to import it because I already got it, and it'll create a copy. But you hit import, and then you have imported the study. Now all you have to do is add it to your chart. You can do that by going to Studies and Add Study and finding Beast 4 yada yada. Or just go to Edit Studies and go to here and type in Beast. This is a little search bar to help you narrow down. And you'll see your Beast 4 with dates. So I'll load up today's. Come on, toss. Load it up. 3 is better than 1. There we go. And within a few seconds, you will get all of these levels that the tool plots. There we go. So as you can see yesterday, we dipped down to our burger bottom, slipped it just enough to tag our purple line. That's also where the daily 21 sat. Just for the heck of it, I'll pull in our daily averages. There you go, daily 21 was sitting right around there as well. And so ES slips, tags our purple line, closes at the 21, opens, slips a little, but once that crosses over the 21 again and setting in a higher low, you go long. We played the 413, 415 calls on SPY, the 4150s, I know some folks that were in the 4110s, 4100s, 4150s. We loaded. But as you can see with the tool, every day it will plot a white hash line on whatever the chart you apply it to. It will plot a white hash line where we open the day. For futures, that's way back here overnight. The open is the white hash line. Our kind of, let's just call it opening range, support, and resistance are the shaded areas around that white line. And you know, folks will say, well, which line do you buy it at? Every level should be used like support and resistance. As it gets down, bounces, and starts to work through, you can enter when it seems right to you. I think I was entering down here. I think other folks were entering right here. But ultimately, it's all support and resistance. So for instance, today, we open, we run into resistance, we come back, we try it one more time, we can't get through, so now we go back down through our support, and we're arriving at the further out shaded zone. The way this works, it's going to plot something, or you know, the white line, the middle of this plot of where we open. It's going to give you an opening range, resistance and support. Then it's going to give you the outside range, resistance and support. That should just be considered the target of where are we going for the day. You can see back here, we open, can't get through resistance, we find support, we peek out just enough to tag the purple line. Once we fall back through resistance, that's when you short with the targets of open, the opening range support, and then ultimately the outside range. So it works in all directions, Just understand the middle is that white hash line. South of that, these should be support. North of that, these should be resistance. And just treat it like such. And yes, once we get through previous resistance, it can turn into support. Or once we fall through support, it can become resistance. It's all just meant to be a nice roadmap for you. Right now, ES is close to the bottom, the outer shaded zone, in the middle of it. If you load this on and just like go back in time, might have to add days or whatever, when we open near the extremes, it's hard to keep pushing further, right? So enjoy the tool today and also load it on anything. So let's go look at Amazon. As it starting to slip 2500, okay? Let's look at, say, the 2550s. So what you do, you go to trade. Here's Amazon's option chain. You can come to these 2550s. If you right click, you get a menu. You can hit copy. Again, right click. There is a menu and there is copy this ticker. Copy that. Go to charts. Come to the ticker. Hit paste. And enter. Then you'll be looking at the 2550s with the Beast system. Let's just zoom in on here. The Beast zone is this red and blue hashed line down below with no shading. Then, just like over on our equity, we have the open level, the open range support and resistance, and then the further out support and resistance. So for instance, on Wednesday, these opened at 12 bucks, blasted off to our outer resistance at 30, and then they came back. They found our opening range support at around 10 bucks, and they ran back to 18. Yesterday, these opened at $7, dropped to our opening range support at about $4-5. Beast was still way below, but that opening range support was enough to pick some up at $4 or $5. They go up through our opening range resistance, and they got to the smaller hash line, which is just the previous day's open. So every day when we open, that's the center of our roadmap. And I like to keep track of what was yesterday's center, because we can, once we find support, just work back through open to the previous day's open, and that's where we can settle. So you can throw this tool on options and equity and futures. You can put that shit on everything. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you have fun today. If you're new to Predictive Trades and you have not joined and subscribed and bought a membership, this tool will only work today. And tomorrow it won't, Monday, it won't work on any option you throw it on. So definitely come check us out. You can join our server for free. The link to our server and Discord is in the description of our this YouTube prep. It is also on our website. So feel free to join us for free. You can start learning what the Beast system is and using it before you sign up for a membership. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck today. And remember, folks, no beast, no feast. We'll see you in the server, in the chat.